Thank you for joining us this morning for the League of Women Voters of Virginia Legislative Roundtable. We're so happy to have you with us. Remind you to mute, please, unless you are one of our speakers. And if you have questions for our speakers, please put them into the chat. We are delighted to have with us this morning Delegate Ward, and Delegate Ward represents the 92nd District. Welcome, Delegate Ward, and thank you.
Good morning. Good morning.
And Delegate Ward, you can go ahead and start.
I'm so sorry. It is an honor to be here with you today. Of course, you know I'm kind of rushed, but I know some of the issues that are important to you to make sure that public schools receive the funding that's important to them. And that's what I will continue to be working with. These are so great for so many of our schools. And until we
recording in progress.
Was there someone saying something or asking a question? Okay. Until we have adequately funded our public schools, I want that money to stay there with us. Even with charter schools and the like, I believe that all of those things should be a local issue up to the school boards, because who knows the community better, or know the schools better than that community. And that's some of the things that I'll also be watching for. Is there another question? Because I'm sort of lost right now. I didn't get your agenda, so. There's something else?
No, Delegate Ward, if you have anything that you want to share about some of the legislation that you're carrying or some of the, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, now I understand. Okay, well, you know, back in 2020, carried the bill to incrementally increase the minimum wage, and we made so much progress. We talked to so many groups, even small business owners were able to weigh in. We had people from every area of the Commonwealth, and we came up with a plan where we could incrementally increase it. But you will also notice that in that legislation, we had some little pauses in there to give us an opportunity to go back and research, make sure that we were doing the right thing. So we have started that increase. The next increase should be in 2023. And that's when it will stop for a pause. I'm not going to say stop, but pause to give us a chance to go back and look at what we're doing. We're talking with Virginia Center for Economic Development, housing. We're doing a lot of research with groups of people. They're supposed to come back to us and let us know the impact that this will be on the Commonwealth. Now, you've heard that they want to repeal it, stop it right now. And I say, why do it now? We can wait until the report comes out. And then a lot of people don't realize there's another pause that we can look at before we move forward. There is a reenactment clause. If you don't reenact this bill, it stops. The minimum wage increases will stop. That's going to be in by 2024. So look at the calendar. 2023 is an election year. So people have the opportunity to go out there, talk to their constituents and decide, you know, and ask them what they think about it. See if they think that the minimum wage should increase. A lot of people think that it's going to run up inflation and everything else. So inflation is increasing anyway. And the impact is felt mostly by those low wage earners. People think that minimum wage earners are all high school students and stuff like that, but it's like 95% of them are over 20 years old. A lot of them are women, single head of households. Most of them are working over 35 hours a week. That is a full-time job getting this kind of money. And what concerns me the most, because I've been around for a while, is that this was the same argument when it was $7.25 an hour. We fought so hard to get $7.25 an hour. And it just seems strange. I wasn't here for the $5, but I could imagine that the same arguments are being used. And we've got to stop doing that because These people are trying to make it and not live off of public assistance and support from the government. And we should give them everything in the world. People talk about kitchen table issues, what are talked about at kitchen tables. Minimum wage families, what do you think they're talking about? They're talking about who's going to get a coat this year. They're talking about when can they catch up with the babysitter. Those are the topics that they're talking about. They're not talking about going on vacations. So the money is going right back into the community, every dime of it. And that's the reason why I'm going to continue to fight to make sure that we can continue this incremental increase in the minimum wage. That's one of my biggest issues this year.
We do have a question. What will the minimum wage be in 23?
$12 an hour. And then we stop.
Okay.
Until we have to get it reenacted.
Right,
Right,
there's a
11.
sorry, go
Right now we had $11 an hour. January this year, $11 an hour.
Then there's another question about lab schools. What lab schools are there in Virginia? Lab schools are usually training grounds for teachers. What are lab schools in Virginia?
Well, for every locality, you get a different understanding of what a lab school is. I know at Hampton University, they have a lab school. It just depends on the area, and you get so many different definitions and how they institute it and that type of thing like that. There's nothing wrong with having a school that might train teachers, help teachers. But what I'm hearing right now, I've got to look deeply into it. And I'm sorry, I can't give you a better answer to that, but it's just mainly because so many people consider lab schools.
Sierra Lewis is going to show up for McQuinn. Okay, let's see. I know we have another one, but my phone is, oh, there, here we go. What about agricultural workers who are exempt from the minimum wage coverage in Virginia?
Okay, I got to be real fast now because I got to go to a committee meeting, but you know, this is one that I fought for so hard. We had so many exemptions and I fought so hard for the agriculture workers, and because it just was not fair, not at all. And the thing is, they don't even have to pay them the $7 an hour. They can do it as low as they want to, and it's not fair. They try to include housing and that type of thing like that, but it's more like dormitory housing, 11 families living in one place, a couple of bathrooms, one kitchen. And so that cannot count towards your money. But yes, I did. And I came back when it was exempted the first year. I came back the next year and fought for it again. And what I was told was, we just passed this bill. You're coming back again with it. Why not wait until it's reenacted? If it's something good, we can do it then. That's my same argument today. When people are saying we need to stop it now, I say, why not wait until it's time to be reenacted? But yes, agriculture workers, I believe they should be included. Yes, I do.
Great. I don't see any other questions in chat, Deb.
Delegate Ward, thank you so much for working us into your busy day. And
Thank you.
And thank you for your hard work for Virginians.
Thank you. And thank you for the invitation. I'm going to run over and fight for a bill right now. You take care now. Bye-bye, everyone.
I'm not sure if our next speaker has joined us yet. Dr. Fedderman, are you with us?
He said he had to move some things around because Delegate Ward had to leave. So I just texted his office, but I did not see him yet. Maybe we have some general questions.
One thing I will let you guys know is that SB 21 is the referendum bill for SJ1, and that's the constitutional amendment to protect the right to vote. We found out, thanks to Pam Berg, early this morning that they amended the agenda. And so that's being heard at 9 o'clock this morning. So we were very fortunate that Sarah Mayhew was able to jump on that, and she'll be testifying at 9 o'clock for the Senate Finance Committee in support of SB 21. Right now, HJ 9 and HJ 28, which are the House companions, have not been assigned, have not been put on the agenda yet. They've been assigned to House P&E, but they're not on the agenda yet.
Deb, Dr. Fedderman is here.
Right, thank you so much. Give me 1 second here. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. James Fedderman, the President and Executive Director of Virginia Education Association. And I believe he is joined by Mr. Shane Riddle, who is the Government Relations Director for the Virginia Education Association, or the VEA. Welcome, Dr. Fedderman and Mr. Riddle.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. It's certainly a privilege and an honor to be here. I am James Fedderman. I am a middle school teacher from Accomack County, located on the beautiful Eastern Shore. I am from Chincoteague. So it is certainly, it's great to be here. One of the bills was changed, so Shane Riddle had to go present. So we certainly understand that, but nonetheless, I am a third baseman, pitcher, back catcher, whatever the case may be. We're all in this great and amazing work together. And one of the things that I want to say before I get started, I have just this crazy enthusiasm about life. And I just want to thank everybody who is just finding it within themselves to just continue to smile. Whatever brings you joy, whatever brings you happiness, continue to smile. Just this week, we buried my father-in-law. And just to give you a quick glance at his life, he started feeling bad the week before last, and we found out that he had COVID. Well, while COVID did not take him out, COVID revealed what was going on. He thought he was just dealing with like brain fogginess from COVID or whatever the case may be. And after which they did a full body scan and determined that he had a mass on his brain. So they did emergency surgery on Tuesday, and they said that they would get the results within 5 days. But on Wednesday, he said, you know, it just wasn't a quality of life, and you know, he had lived a phenomenal life, and he was just ready to go. So on Wednesday, we started making preparations for him to go to hospice. He went to hospice on Thursday, and he passed away Friday morning. And on his deathbed, he told us, of all the things you do in life, the one thing that will never cost you anything is to smile. He said, because the days that he held on were because of someone smiling about a memory, about a thought. So I just encourage everybody to continue to smile, because your smile can make someone else smile, even if it's for just a second. And in the world of politics, my name is James Fedderman, and I approve that message. So I am here today to give you an understanding or perspective about charter schools and vouchers. One of the things that I would like to put into this space, that anything, any element, any catalyst, any mechanism that seeks to remove funds from public education is a slippery slope, period, non-negotiable. And you can wrap it in any kind of Christmas wrapping you want, but at the end of the day, a charter school, a voucher, it's a code word for segregation. That's what it is. When you start taking money from the public school, giving it to one entity who already may or may not have access, it's segregation all over again. And I just want to encourage everybody on this call, whether you have children in the system now, grandchildren in the system, or if you may think about having another child in the future. And I say that to you in a spirit of boldness, because on the day that I was born, my mother was 57 years old and my father was 61. So there is hope, and I turned out okay. But as we continue to fight this fight, we need individuals who are willing to stand up for children and public education. If you want to know what's wrong with politics or politics in the school, ask those that are on the front line. Ask those that are doing it every day. One of the things that we hear all the time is everything now is being blamed on COVID. Everything is being blamed on COVID. They talked about learning loss. They talked about gaps in achievement. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've had learning loss ever since I've been in school. And for some, it's called summer break. When kids go home during the summer, they forget most of what they've learned during that academic year. And educators do what they do best when those babies come back through our doors. They assess where they are, they teach them, they reassess, so on and so forth. You're right, we've got to get those babies reading. And the great joy about reading is there's so much versatility to it. If you pick up a book that you don't like, put it down and pick up another one. Put that one down, get another one. In my house, when my two kids were little, we had solid, sustained reading. Everybody in the house, you could get your favorite blanket, pillow, whatever, but we're going to read. And then we're going to talk about what we read. And we're going to write about what we read. That is the reason why my son, to this day, my son is in med school on a free ride. My daughter is in college to be a teacher on a free ride. You know, and I say it all the time, children are like credit cards. You can pay now or you can pay later. The return on the investment is real. If we don't educate these children in our public schools, they're going to be in our communities raising hell. And we all know that we've had children ripping and running, as grandma would say, up and down the street, act like they don't have anywhere to go. It's because the joy of reading and learning has not been ingrained in them to be a part of their routine. So you take a child like that who's running around in the community doing everything, a charter school or a voucher is going to do nothing to help that child, because the foundation for learning, it's just not there. But the VEA has a policy statement on charter schools, and we make it very plain that the VEA is in opposition to any failed experiment, largely of unaccountable private managed charter schools, as we continue to support public charters. And I want to be very clear that public charters are clean and legit because they go through the process that are established under the local school boards. The local school boards have the authority over the school divisions. Hence the reason why the VEA has come out so strong against the governor's executive order, because the jurisdiction of running those schools, it lies with the school boards. So because of that, any element that seeks to minimize what public education can do, it's a slippery slope. Now, for example, if we look at charter schools in terms of funding, let's just say we have school A that has 100 students, and let's just say that we give that school $100 for every child that's in that school. You can do the math. $100 for those 100 students in there. Now, what happens with charter schools is school A still has 100 students on their roster, but if 50 of them should leave and go to charter school A, that money goes with them to the charter school, but yet the public school is still expected to operate as if they have $100 for 100 students. That's not a realistic expectation. As my dad would say, you do the math, that doesn't add up anywhere. So it's very hard to continue that level of instruction when you don't have the resources. And when we talk about funding, we talk about the SOQs. Those are the categories of employment where the state gives you direct money for that. And basically those funds are based upon the number of students that you have in your total population. Well, if you've removed 50 students from your public school to go to charter school, the need for saying you have to have more staff, it's not there because they're strictly looking at the numbers. And when you're looking at strictly the numbers don't account for what the variability of students are in your class. You could have 50 students, but those 50 students could be 30 ESL, 30 of them special ed, 30 of them free and reduced lunch. Those are all risk factors as it relates to children being able to get what they need to be successful. And anything beyond that, it's very sad. And you're absolutely right, Ms. Janice. Studies show summer breaks impacts. It has been proven. That is absolutely true. One of the things that we talk about is, giving children books to read at home. If children don't have anything else to do but a book in front of them, I promise you, they will pick that book up. And if nothing more than to look at the pictures. We've got to meet them where they are if we expect to take them where we need them to be. So when we talk about school construction, we now look at school construction in the words of infrastructure. Ladies and gentlemen, our infrastructure in the Commonwealth has been jacked up for a very long time. And when I say jacked up, I mean you have the County Board of Supervisors over here playing games with the school board on how much money they're going to give them to make the school up to par just so students can feel safe. And when we talk about, again, COVID and all of those things, our air quality in our schools, it has always been an issue. I'm blessed to be 46 now, but I can remember getting out of school half a day when the temperature rose above 100 and some degrees because we didn't have proper ventilation. I remember getting out of school. So these issues that we are dealing with now, it's not anything new. So now the federal government has decided to say, hey, take this money, boom, 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 take this money and do something with it. It's really hard to put a grade A or a class A air conditioning system in a school where the air conditioning unit will make the whole school collapse. So we've got to find a way that's equitable to try to fix this, and fixing all of these issues do not happen with private charters. Private charters. Now, one of the things that I want to put into this space, and I don't want to get in the weeds on this, but I think it's very important that we talk about it. I know just by a show of hands, and I'm going to ask you to just wave your hand if you agree or disagree with what I'm saying, but wherever you live or the communities or the roads in which you travel, how many of you have passed through any of those areas and saw a new Dollar General anywhere? How many have seen a new Dollar General pop up somewhere, anywhere? So I'm not sure if many of you all know this, but Dollar Generals are funded by the Koch brothers. Dollar Generals are funded by the Koch brothers. And I'm going to just call it what it is because I am a proud Black man of color. These Dollar Generals are popping up in predominantly low-income Black communities. What ends up happening because these Dollar Generals pop up in these low communities? Well, if you go to those Dollar Generals in those low socioeconomic status areas, and let's just say you get your monthly check and you go there and you make purchases, that Dollar General is a private entity, and while you may never give your information to a third-party vendor, they're capturing all of your personal information by using your credit card or your debit information. Telling you what I know because it's real. They are going into the communities and they're basically taking advantage of these low socioeconomic families. And if you pay attention to it, at the end of every season, Dollar General is the only store that doesn't do 50% markups. They go to 70 and 80% markups because they can get more people in the store getting their information. So again, you know, I want to go to, you know, the Koch brothers are strong supporters of charter schools, and they give lots of money to the privatization of our schools. So I want to make sure that when we talk about, you know, what is right and what is best for our students in the environments they are expected to learn, with the educators that are expected to teach them, we have to have systems in place that ensures our educators are getting the best resources so that they can educate our babies. So one of the things that that talks about charter schools, the evidence does not support expanding vouchers. You can get this resource, and I'm going to drop it in the chat before I'm done, so that you can have all of the studies that have been used to give the rankings about charter schools and vouchers. But one thing that really stands out, Virginia already severely underfunds its public schools. The ranking is 41st in per student spending out of all states in pre-K through 12. Diverting more funds to private schools will only exacerbate the financial challenges for our public schools. And research was even found in Wisconsin, K through 12 vouchers that shortchanged public schools has created a significant financial threat for the ongoing of just regular public education. Vouchers increase segregation and discrimination. They do not impact satisfaction or safety at all. Virginia experimented with vouchers during the massive resistance in an effort to reject school integration efforts. And these voucher programs in Virginia were intended to have favor on higher income white people and families. And also private schools participating in vouchers are generally free to accept or reject students based on perceived at-risk status. So I just want to drop a pin in that right there. If James Fedderman is in a public school and I've already exhibited certain behaviors that are highly problematic, I would not even have an opportunity to go to a charter school because of a perceived at-risk status. Or let's just say my family were Baptist. They could say, we don't want you. Let's just say I was a transgender or had gender identity issues. They could reject me. So as of 2016, the review was no voucher programs in the country. Not one single voucher program in the country protects our LGBTQ students against discrimination. This allows private schools to select only the most advantaged students and reject children with the greatest needs for support. So participating in private schools are not required to set tuition at the voucher level. Voucher bills in Virginia would have provided a payment of about $4,500, while the school tuition costs in Virginia are over $11,500 for elementary students and closer to $17,000 for middle and high school students. So when we look at this and when you factor in additional costs of transportation and uniforms, this effectively excludes the lowest income families from being able to participate. And when we look at really what works to improve student outcomes, with students and schools recovering from many setbacks even prior to the pandemic, we can't afford to start shifting investments to unproven voucher programs that have poor track records for improving student outcomes. And then the other thing that you see in the news all the time is after audits happen, the serious dereliction of duties with regards to appropriating those funds appropriately. There are so many charter schools that have gone underwater because of financial mismanagement. And again, when we look at how to improve public education, we have to make sure that our public dollars are truly going to our public schools to do what is right and what is best for our students. I want to stop there to be able to, answer any questions. This is my passion. I love it, and this gets me fired up. It wakes me up every day. It starts me on my journey, and I love what I do. And at the end of the day, if I can do something to make education and learning better for one child, regardless of their color or their background, the playground they decide to play or the train track they decide to jump over, if I can do that, I'm in a better place. And I just thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and to share. Right, I don't know why we would want it, but for those individuals that are making decisions, those are the questions that we need to ask. Oh, absolutely. For those that don't know, I was on CNN the other night. I was on with Don Lemon talking about the tip line. That tip line is basically another tactic to divide educators. And one of the things that I'd like to put into this space, there are educators who are parents too. And Governor Youngkin seems to only want to have conversation with those parents who share his political view. I'm sorry, if you want to know what's going on in schools, ask an educator. And I promise I'm going to shut up, but I want you all to know that I sent him a letter on November the 19th, congratulating him on his win. With party line aside, the VEA wants to be a partner in this great work with you. Let's sit down and talk. Let's find a path forward so that we can work together. I represent over 40,000 members across 132 school divisions. To this day, my letter has not been acknowledged, nor has an attempt to meet with us been established. So you can't say you want to hear from parents and not listen to us. And I am so freaking disgusted that every picture I have seen the man post, it has been nothing but white people. Nothing but white people. Call it for what it is. There's some good Black people out there too. There's some good other kind of people out there too. Let's be an inclusive Virginia, not for a select minority, but for a collective majority. So again, I approve this message. I want questions, comments, short speeches.
I think you answered everything as you were going along brilliantly. I don't see any more. Wonderful.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to drop my email and my phone number in the chat. Should anybody want to reach out if you're bored or can't sleep, I would love to communicate with you to try to do anything that will move children and public education forward in this great Commonwealth. Our children deserve it, and our tax dollars deserve to be put to use in the right way. So again, I'm going to put my email and my phone number in the chat, and I thank you for the opportunity. If there's ever anything else I can be invited to, I would love to be a part. I love to talk, as you can tell. But most of all, I love to be around people who are being movers and shakers for a greater Commonwealth.
Dr. Fedderman, thank you so much. It was our honor and pleasure to have you this morning. Love your passion.
Thank
Love
you.
your advocacy. Love
Thank
the
you.
information that you imparted to us. So thank you so very much for taking time with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We had scheduled Dr. Delores McQuinn this morning, but she got called away for a committee meeting, and we are lucky that Sierra Lewis, Delegate McQuinn's legislative aide, was able to meet with us this morning. So welcome, Sierra.
Good morning, you all, and thank you for accepting this fast change. Everything is moving quickly over here in the General Assembly. So Delegate McQuinn just wanted me to talk about her bills that she's focusing in on education this year. And she has a bill, House Bill 1280. It's not specifically focused on elementary or secondary education, but this would be a bill that provides access to HBCUs to be a part of a program called the G3 program, Get Skilled, Get a Job, and Give Back. And what this program does, and is already in existence, is it provides tuition assistance for those who are going to two-year schools, most of the community colleges here in the state of Virginia, or those who are participating in workforce training programs. And what we have seen so far in just the struggle in making sure that this bill gets pushed over to the other side is that there seems to be an issue with adding HBCUs onto a program that already exists. And while this bill does not focus on education, elementary and secondary education, it still exposes the limelight that there's a problem when it comes to providing equity for students of color. And this goes back to elementary school, this goes back to middle school, this goes back to high school, when you have students who are already in environments that are underfunded, under-resourced, and schools who necessarily don't understand the needs of the students in the community, or who do understand those, but don't have the resources to support those. So what Delegate McQuinn wanted me to talk about is how these charter schools, these tax school, these vouchers to go to private schools and to charter schools are taking away from the funding that's necessary in the public education system. So in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we have seen disparities in the educational system, from legal segregation to the reservation of resources, especially white flight, when schools started to move districts, when certain people were able to come into certain schools. And I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And we can see that when you look at RPS and you look at the funding of schools in Chesterfield, you see those disparities, you see those differences in education and funding. And now there's an effort to divert funds that are provided to public schools and to put them into private schools. And I won't reiterate anything that Dr. Fedderman just said, because it was absolutely amazing. And I won't repeat it because he said it so eloquently. But what we need to see is an attempt to solve the issue for the masses, not just for a select few. And when you look at the students that are being taken from their schools who have the opportunity, because it does seem like a great opportunity to go to these private schools and to go to these charter schools, you're removing them from an environment and taking away the opportunity for them to be in their environments, in their schools, and providing resources in those schools instead of taking them away. And what we see is that oftentimes students who score higher or get the better grades or pass SOLs with flying colors are the reasons that schools get more funding in the first place. So when you take the students, when you take the brightest students away and you put them into an area that doesn't even need a dollar that the school is providing, we are creating a bigger problem for the masses, which in certain areas, especially here in Richmond, when you say, you know what, the school that you're in is not good enough for you, that means the environment that you're in is not good enough for you either. Let me hang that up. Sorry, guys. That means the environment that you're in is not good enough for you either. So instead of learning how to make better where you are, just get up and go. And that causes so many other issues and so many other areas when it comes to the area that I live in is a bad place and I don't want to be here, rather than what can we do to make this area better? What can we do to make these school better? What can we do to make sure that teachers who are qualified want to teach here and have the resources to do exactly what they need to do in these schools? So here in the General Assembly, I've been sitting in every committee meeting for education. I just left the subcommittee education for early childhood and innovation. And guys, the fight is hard. It's hard seeing how quick they are to undo what has been done for the past 4 years, and so quick to divert funding from public schools. And we all know what's happening. I saw in the comments, this is mass resistance part 2. And they're calling again. Sorry. But we need everyone's support in making sure that schools get the funding that they need, students stay in the schools that they need to be in, and instead of making one school better, make them all better. Again, thank you all for allowing me to speak on Delegate McQuinn's behalf, and I look forward to future conversations with you all.
Joan, are there any questions in the chat for Sierra? Sierra, do you have any time for a question?
I don't see any in the chat.
All right. Sierra, thank you so
Oh.
much for joining us.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
And give our regards to Delegate McQuinn, please.
Absolutely, I will. Thank you all for setting this up.
Thank you. Next, we have our own Carol Noggle. Carol Noggle has been a long-time advocate for the League of Women Voters of Virginia and is recently leading our education issue group. So Carol, welcome.
Oh, thank you. All of that is really hard to follow. Dr. Fedderman was inspiring for me. And I'm following a lot of what he talked about. But I thought what I could do is just give you a quick rundown on the status of some of the bills, particularly about funding. And so there's a lot of other things been going on in education committees, but in, you know, bullying and what we do about transgender folks and the divisive concept curriculum. But I guess I'm talking about money today. And the first one I thought I'd mention is the one about money for school construction. And Senator forgot the names. Anyway, we have a bill that has passed 472 to get tax money for school construction. That's the Senate bill. So far that's good. It passed in the Senate actually, and with bipartisan support, it passed 28-12. That's SB 472, and that's the one that localities can have a 1% sale tax increase that would go to schools. The localities have to pass a referendum to get support for it, but that's doing well in the Senate. As far as the vouchers and the tax credit bills, so far they're not moving very much. And I think which surprises me, they've not been heard. But I've sent, I think, the whole list of those vouchers and education improvement scholarship tax credit. So I don't know what they're waiting for, but I want to tell you the one that is, I think, the most egregious as far as expanding those tax credits is SB 16, and that's Senator Hackworth's bill. And he's going to increase the amount that overall each year there can be more tax credits given. And the person who donates to a scholarship fund could get a 6 increase tax credit themselves. So that's the one that's got the greatest changes there. The other bills about charter schools, they were supposed to be heard this morning in the House Ed Committee, and they've been moved to next Monday. So I don't know the reason, if they didn't have the folks who were going to talk for them. But Delegate Davis has one that we oppose. And there's another one that there, and I'll send those. So we oppose also Senator Obenshain and Senator Souterville have a bill that would expand the charter schools and have a regional
Recording in progress.
Regional administration. So I think those are the main ones that I'm following right now. So I will be happy to send you again. I think it's available, those talking points for those. So is there any particular, I think, was there something in the chat?
Yeah.
Yeah,
People are asking if you could send a list of bills that are affecting education, bill numbers and talking points.
absolutely. Yeah,
Denise,
Yeah.
it's in the Google Drive. Is that what you're saying?
yes, that's what she says in the chat.
So it's
Right.
in the
Yes,
Google
in the
Drive.
chat. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Yes, Joan. One of the things that those bills are, they're right in the, you put them on the Google Drive, a lot of the talking points on a lot of these issues. It's in the Google Drive from League Day, the
Okay.
one for the
I'll
members.
resend that. That's the one that I
Thank
put in there,
Okay,
but I will drop it in the chat again, so you have it.
Yeah.
all right,
Yes,
thank you.
Yeah, and I see that there's a question about Delegate LaRock's bill. Yeah, all of those that are the ESA bills have not gotten any action yet. So yeah, he has HB 788 and well, that's actually the tax credit bill. And then he has HB 1024. And that, again, that has not been heard yet. I'm not sure why they're not up to the high priority for the committees, but none of those at all have been heard in a committee. And one of, just as an aside, and I think it's happening right now in Senate Finance, is not related to the funding, is I think it's Senator Locke's bill about a diversity person in as a secretary. I think it was that the DEI secretary, right now it's not that position, and the governor wanted to change it to the diversity opportunity and position. But I'm missing out what's happening in that finance committee to hear Senator Locke's.
Yeah, Christine said she's ready.
That what?
There's a question on, I'm sorry.
333?
Yeah, I can't roll my computer screen very easily these days. It's being ridiculous. But there was a question on the rocks bill, but there was also a question on, I'm sorry, I cannot scroll up. There was a question on the difference between public and private charter schools, I believe. Yeah, is there a movement on public and private charter schools?
Well, not private. We don't, no, there's not a movement to have private charters. there is a movement to have regional division that you get more than one jurisdiction could manage a charter schools, but we don't have private charters in Virginia.
Okay. I don't.
Excuse me, I'd like to answer that question, Joan, if you don't mind. This is Denise. There is what Carol is referring to is not, I don't know if that exactly answers the question. The question is such, is there a movement and regarding public and private charters? The movement in particularly the House is to favor any incentive for privatization, period. And yes, by changing the governing structure from the local school board to some omnibus, quote unquote, authority, and not giving the local support to the school board, that is in essence beginning to shift to more privatization. And they're using the term regional governing authority. So yes, there is a shift. There seems to be almost nothing regarding public charter schools, which are magnet schools governed by the local school board. Okay, so that's very different than what this governor has been proposing. I'll be quiet now. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see anything else in chat.
Okay, thank you. Our final speaker today is Christine Payne, who is a member of our gun violence prevention issue group. And this is sort of a segue into next week's WLRT that will be focused on safe children and providing safe environments. So Christine, welcome.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So I will say that I only heard about this last night. Ruth Hoffman is our gun violence prevention lead, and she is not here today, so I will try to do her work justice. I've been living in the Virginia Nurses Association space this past year, but I will say that gun violence prevention is an intersectional issue. Virginia Nurses Association has identified gun violence as a public health crisis. So this all goes together. There is one action alert I'd like to call your attention to. It is SB 310, which is a ghost gun bill. If I know everybody knows about ghost guns, they are unserialized. You can get the parts online. We oppose ghost guns on every level, and we do have an opportunity today at 2 o'clock. Ghost gun bill that is, let's see, whose bill is it? Sorry. SB 310 is going to be heard in criminal law subcommittee at 2 o'clock. So Ruth is asking that if anybody has time, please sign up to testify in support of this bill. We want to make sure we are keeping unserialized guns off the streets and out of the hands of people who are eager to do harm. When there is a crime committed and there is a ghost gun involved, meaning there's no serial number on the weapon itself, law enforcement meets a dead end. They can't trace the gun, and it makes their investigation all the more difficult. So again, that's Senator Ebbins, SB 310. That's going to be on the docket today at 2 o'clock. We, in general, are playing defense this year instead of offense. Other than the ghost gun bill, we really don't have a lot going on with momentum on the House side. It looks like a lot of the House bills that are intent on undoing our progress from the last session, they're all sitting in House firearms on public safety. And they're just kind of sitting there. The thought is that they're not going to be brought up for discussion until the very end of session, so that the committee chair can just say, we don't have time for public comment. But I will call your attention to a couple of different bills that have been drafted by Delegate Timothy Anderson. And as a little note, he is a gun store owner from the 83rd House Delegates district in Virginia Beach. He has HB 8, which is allowing for retired veterans to be hired as SROs in our school system, which we're having a conversation about SROs in general, the security resource officers. And do they do more harm than good? Do they come with their own implicit bias against students of color? So the Virginia Community Coalition Against Gun Violence is in opposition of HB 8. Buddy Fowler wants, Delegate Fowler wants to exempt honor guard and military service organizations from the regulations on paramilitary activities, meaning that the oath keepers who are all retired military would be exempt from prohibition for paramilitary activity. That's HB 17. That's in House Courts of Justice right now. That's going to sit there till the end, I think. Let's see. I mean, there's really too much to talk about in 3 minutes. But what I could do is send an alert out when these bills are going to be on the docket. Right now, like I said, they're just simmering in hopes that we don't, motivate people to come and comment publicly. But the one I will come back to is, please, if you do have time today, Senate Bill 310 is on the docket at 2 o'clock. Does anybody have any questions?
There are two questions.
Guns in worship. Okay, hold on. I do have that. Yes. Sorry. There is an effort to repeal our prohibition of guns in places of worship. That is HB 23, which is Delegate Walker's bill. That's right now, it's in House Rules. And then HB 188 is Delegate McGuire's bill, which says basically the same thing, and that's in rules as well. What I'm going to say is these bills on the House side are most likely going to pass. Our firewall is going to be in the Senate. So we're going to watch these bills as they cross over. What is it, February 14th? When are we at crossover? 14th or 13th? 15th, okay. We're going to watch these bills very carefully as they cross over from the House, which I do believe they will survive. And then we're going to watch Senate Judiciary very carefully, where I do believe we have a firewall. I did watch Judiciary yesterday, and although Senator Edwards is not our most prolific, outspoken gun violence prevention advocate, he is of the mind that we have just passed a list of bills. They are just new laws now, and he is not in favor of rolling back newly passed laws. He would prefer to watch the evolution of these laws and see how they are impacting our communities. That's what I'm hearing from him, which makes me hopeful that we can kill some of these bills when they reach the Senate.
There is a question about ghost guns. Can they evade airport security?
Yes, because many of the pieces are plastic. So yes. What you do with it, if you are of the mind of wanting to get your ghost gun past your security, you disable the parts and you pack them separately, and many of those parts are plastic and they do evade X-ray. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Christine. There was a question about the status of HB 391. I dropped that into chat. Oh. It's in the House Education Subcommittee. Yeah,
right.
K-12 subcommittee.
That removes the authority for school boards to establish gun-free zones. That's Nick Freitas's bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want that either. And this is what I mean. We're on defense this year. Right. And they're going to all be dropped probably around the same time. at the, probably next week. So we're just gonna keep our eye out. And then I'm sure Ruth will send out the action alerts, but she and I will work together on that.
No, she doesn't. Okay.
She does, sorry, Joan?
No, I
So,
think Deb's gonna comment.
Yeah, regarding the action alerts, those need to go through Denise and me.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
And I think that there may already be one on Outreach Circle. I'll have to check, but I know that Nancy had a list she was working on.
Okay. Okay, so what I'm seeing was from this morning, Joan, and I sent it to you. I emailed it to you this morning. It came from Ruth via.
To her committee.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
And I
Sorry, I
asked you if you
misspoke.
wanted me to send it over to Deb and Denise, but we'll get it worked out.
Okay, beg your pardon. It's hard from the office at home to really have the pulse on everything this year. I'm
Tell
sorry.
me about it.
I know. Okay, does anybody have any more questions? I just want to say, Dr. Fedderman, oh my God, can we have him like run for office in Accomack County somewhere sometime? Really? Okay,
Yeah, we're looking
have a
for
good day, everybody.
candidates.
So if there are no more questions, I think that we are at time, and that concludes today. Thank you so much again for everyone for taking your mornings with us, and be watching Outreach Circle for action alerts, and contact your legislators on any of these bills that you've heard about as a constituent, and let them know how you feel. So again, thank you for joining us, and have a great day.
Christina, late one came in. Can you repeat the organization that you are with? I know it's a nursing group. Someone wants to know what organization.
It's the Virginia Nurses Association. Virginia Nurses Association, and so I serve as the Hampton Roads chapter's governance chair, and then I'm on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council, and we've been very busy this year.
I bet. Thank you.
Take care.
Excellent, Joan. Very excellent.
You got a lot of the speakers. What are you kidding me? Wasn't me.
Thanks, Joan.
Well, excellent.
Thank you to everybody.
Excellent.
Thanks, Deb.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Denise.
Great speakers.
Well, Denise got a couple of them.
Thank you.
Good
All right.
job.
Bye.